Did you guys see the news that I guess it kind of filters into this movie that we're going to be talking about, a movie that last time we mentioned it, at least HP and I, we said we were never going to talk about. Did you guys see that Jeffrey Dahmer show got a second and third season greenlit and they're turning it into an anthology series? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't know that was happening, but the sort of phenomenon of how we're treating serial killers these days ties 100% into the film we're watching, because that's what was in my head the entire time I was watching the movie.
What, just fake Jeffrey Dahmer? You want to come back to my apartment and take some pictures?
Yeah, the sort of poetically shot like murders of these people, and listen, Jeffrey Dahmer was not Evan Peters. Like, sorry, ladies.
Don't you mean sorry, guy?
Sorry, everybody. Actually, that kid's adorable.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, look, you cannot sexy up Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, but they did.
They did, right? Like the worst of all of them in a lot of ways. Like maybe like Bob Berdella's that same camp, but like Dahmer is his own breed. And yeah, it's weird to me because then you come to something like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and he's the most, I mean, not ugly. Michael Rooker is still a good-looking guy, but this is Michael Rooker uglied up, as they would say.
Yeah, you'd be hard-pressed to find a less glamorous depiction of serial killing in a movie, which is, I think, part of the reason why it's still so effective. I mean, this movie is 35 years old. I was thinking about that as I was preparing. I'm like, and it retains its power to horrify and shock you. So it's remarkable.
So what is that movie we're going to be talking about on this episode of the Kulturecast? I am still your host, Chris Stachiw, much to the chagrin of many, and I'm joined by my good friend, all the way from a destination that's quite dark, at a taxi cab at the end of town, your friend and mine, Father Malone.
Hey, everybody. Do you like serial killers? I don't.
And also from a similar taxi cab, who's the raisin? Is he the raisin or are you the raisin?
No, he's the wolf. I'm the raisin.
Okay, he's the wolf.
You've seen me close up. Come on, man.
He's the wolf to Father Malone's raisin. Your friend and mine, HP.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
Do you like serial killers, HP?
I do, and I give you special credit. I don't know if this was intentional, but your invite said Henry, Portrait of a Serial, as in Raisin Bran, serial killer.
Hell yeah.
Which is somehow comforting going into this movie again after so many years. So yeah.
We're prepared, as HP
prepared.
would put it. On this episode of the Kulturecast, we're talking about 1986's Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Otis, plug it in.
Did you really kill your mama?
What?
Did you really kill your mama?
I guess I did.
She must have treated you real bad.
She was a whore. Susie! You used to dance naked?
Sure, all the time around the house.
Otis,
Best little naked dancer you ever saw.
you never.
You telling me you never killed anybody before?
I ain't saying that.
Open your eyes, Otis. Look at the world. It's either you or them. You know what I mean. Don't do that, Otis. She's your sister.
I feel like I know you. Like I've known you for a long time. I feel like I've known you forever and ever.
It's like the blood droppings from a deer you shot. And all they gotta do is follow those droppings, and pretty soon they're gonna find that deer.
I ain't interrupting that, man.
What are you doing?
I want to see it again.
Directed by John McNaughton, written by Richard Fire, who goes by that because if his name was Dick Fire, everybody would laugh at him. Also John McNaughton, and it stars Michael Rooker, Tom Tallis, and Tracy Arnold. Michael Rooker plays the titular serial killer, who's pretty much just based off of Henry Lee Lucas, which in and of itself has hilarious metatextual ramifications, as we now know in 2022, due to something called The Confession Killer on Netflix. But Michael Rooker plays Henry, who goes on a killing spree along with his friend Otis Toole. Totally Otis Toole. I mean, again, that's who these characters are based off of, played by Tom Towless. And Tom has a sister who comes into town, played by Tracy Arnold, and she gets wrapped up into their horrifying world of murder and mayhem. So, Father Malone, you were kind of the first invitation, because HP and I had talked about this. So this was out of the blue for you. So I already kind of know where this was going to go with HP, but I got to know. This is something we've never talked about. Tell me all about your experiences with Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Okay. You know me. You know how I am living.
Any good story starts with, you know me.
Back in the 80s, I was full bore slasher gorehound fella, and Fangoria was my Bible. So this is a movie I had been reading about for years before it finally hit the cinemas. And even after it had come out, I did not initially see it. I missed it. Somehow that fella, HP, got to go see it. I think a midnight show, right, buddy? And
Yeah.
And he was so fucking horrified by it that I had to see it immediately. I finally got my hands on it at a VHS copy at City Video. And I watched it that time. And I have watched it this time. I've watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre probably 2 or 3 times, but this one's not getting a third time.
Whoa.
Not for quality, baby, compared to Texas Chainsaw for a reason. It's the same level. It's the same movie in a lot of ways. Just an urban Texas Chainsaw is what this is for me. And that movie is so effective, and it is such a perfect film. I'm glad I saw it. Don't ever want to see it again. I appreciate everything, the effort, the acting, the writing. It is a great movie that I never want to watch again.
HP, what about you?
I'm going to echo a lot of what Father Malone just said. Now, I didn't come into this as a dyed-in-the-wool horror fan like Father Malone did. When it came out in, I think it was officially released in 1990. It took a few years. It was filmed in 86, but it took a few years for it to finally come out. Anyway, by that time, I was kind of coming into my own as just a movie fan. And this was on my radar because it was it initially came out as unrated. And it was one of those movies that led to the establishment of NC-17, the then new rating system. So I came at it like out of a place of curiosity. Like, I need to see this. It was given an X rating initially, and it wasn't because of the violence. It was because of the tone. In fact, I'd read in Roger Ebert's review, he talked about the fact that the MPAA came back to McNaughton and said, there are no cuts that you can possibly make to this picture that will deliver an R rating. It's impossible, which is why he put it out unrated. So as a high school kid at the time, I was really curious and eager to see this. I didn't know what I was in for. And I did see it at the place called Coolidge Corner Theater, which was a famous kind of art house. And it was a midnight show. It still is. It's wonderful. In fact, Father Malone and I saw a midnight showing of The Warriors there.
In 35, baby.
Which was a bucket list thing for me. Anyway, it was just me and another high school friend. I'm not sure why I wouldn't have gone with Father Malone. That would have been right up his alley at the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, pal.
But I don't know why. But I went with this friend of mine, Stephen, and it was so affecting. I have seen it 3 times now. I saw it that time. I saw it once in college to show it, almost like to dare them to watch it, some friends in college. And then I saw it just to prepare for this. And that's probably 2 times too many. I said this when I talked to you last, Chris, that and just like Father Malone said, I love the movie in that it's skillfully made, wonderfully acted for what they're trying to do. But having said that, this is not really a movie that one enjoys in the literal sense. You appreciate it and you allow it to affect you, but you have very little desire to revisit that place and those characters ever again.
Boy, folks, shit's about to get real weird. Shit's about to get real weird.
You love it? Did you have a good time?
I enjoyed the shit out of this movie. Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Michael Rooker. Maybe it's Mabel. But realistically, what it is, honestly, this movie to me, and this is going to sound kind of insane, I think you guys would agree, it does feel a tad pedestrian in 2022.
Okay. Yes.
Right?
I get that.
But I think that's what makes it work so well.
Yeah. I mean, look, a movie has to stand in its own time and then past that time, right? So it's a stretch to ask generation 50 years later to put themselves in the minds of moviegoers at that point. But I'm going to ask you to put yourself in the mind of a moviegoer.
Well, but I agree. It is. I'm more speaking to it's pedestrian now, but I think what makes it work more so than ever is the fact that it can be pedestrian and still be more effective than things that are coming out now, like the Dahmer show, which goes out of its way to be as unpedestrian as possible, like really glamming up the kills, like making it some artistic endeavor to show human beings being torn apart. This movie just goes, no. We're just going to linger on these people that have been murdered for a little too long every time, but it's effective every time because they're using interesting camera cuts. They're using interesting audio trickery and techniques. This movie is, if you watch parts of this movie, you would go, well, this movie is completely devoid of style. But I would say that this movie has more style all over the place. It's just the parts of this movie that are definitely going to sit with you are made that way. Most of this movie, there's not much going on. Like, it's just Michael Rooker being Michael Rooker for the most part. You don't really see people get killed. You get like what, two groups of people, three maybe?
Yeah, but it's. Are you
forgetting the television salesman?
I'm talking about the television salesman and then the camera of the family being filmed. And then I guess the guy out in his car. But you don't see every single kill. Okay. You don't see every single kill though, right? You don't see every single kill.
No, but I think.
So much worse that you don't actually.
Right. Exactly.
The beginning, when you have those scenes at the beginning where the camera kind of washes over the tableau of the murdered woman in the bathroom with the big bottle sticking out of her face, the elderly couple in the diner. You mentioned this already, Chris, but the sound design, or maybe it was you, Father Malone, forgive me, the sound design of you kind of hear this echoey, shadowy, the screams and everything. I think, to Father Malone's point, I think it's almost more effective that you don't see the majority of those kills because the mind sort of races as to what horrible things just happened. And the matter-of-fact nature of the character is really, it's still chilling to me. But I see your point about, I guess, compared to something that's a little more glitzy and shined up for a mass audience. In the same way, this is going to be a weird comparison, but if you look at a movie like, Rocky, let's say, we've had decades and decades of Rocky movies, right? And if you compare, say, Creed, the latest ones, to the original Rocky is slow and painstaking and kind of boring, but that is of its time. And it was effective in kind of depicting the dull, sad life of that character. Well, the same thing is the case here. Out of necessity, McNaughton is shooting in all these practical locations with all these non-actors, and it only enhances like the verisimilitude of the movie, and it makes it more effective, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, that's my point really is just when you have something that's pared as far down as this is to almost, again, there is style, but for the most part, it is leaning hard on a cinema verite. At least when you're sitting at the table with Henry and Tracy, or Becky, I guess. When you're sitting at the table with them, you're part of that. You're in there. You're sitting next to them. And that contrasts that with so many of the other things that are done when they're killing people, where they're going out of their way to do something exciting or different, like the scene where it's them watching the TV of them having murdered the family. You could have just had them breaking into the house and showing it that way, but it's much more interesting and frankly disturbing that they're watching it. But you contrast that with just them sitting around and talking. It's like two different movies, but they work really well together in spite of them being very stylistically different. Because the parts where it's just Michael Rooker talking, it really is just Michael Rooker talking. Like there's nothing insidious about it. Most of the time he's just talking about how shitty his life is. But then you get to the points where he's killing people. And it's like, okay, now I understand what the point of the juxtaposition is.
I'm glad that I had already seen Michael Rooker in a movie called 8 Men Out before I had seen him as Henry Portrait of Circo, because if this had been my first impression of him, this would be him forever.
That's me, Father Malone. I mentioned that last time. I didn't see 8 Men Out at the time. So this was my first impression. My second impression was JFK. And I couldn't help thinking the whole time is, oh my God, that's Henry up there as a New Orleans lawyer.
Look out, Jim Garrison.
it took, in the same way that as a kid, when I saw Terrence Stamp as General Zod in Superman 2, he was scary to me as a kid because he was this, badass supervillain. It took a lot of years and a lot of interesting roles for me to get over that Michael Rooker kind of, oh my God, it's Henry right there. But now you'd be hard pressed. I mean, because most people know him probably from Guardians of the Galaxy at this point.
Which is in and of itself kind of fucking mind, right?
Completely.
I mean, the guy who is in Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, one of the more beloved Marvel characters, right?
Yeah.
Gets one of the better death scenes of any of the characters in the entire MC. So, and to see him in this, we're talking about on another episode of the Kulturecast, Deceiver, which came out in 97. He's also in. And it's just weird to see him in things like not, again, I think his image has been softened being Yondu in the MCU. A substantial amount, I would say.
Yeah, but he's, I think most people now think of him as Merle, right? From Walking Dead. He's either Merle or he's Yondu. He runs the gamut of racist zombie killers. What?
He was in Suicide Squad too, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was in the opening. Yeah, he was the beginning. Director there. My God, anything's possible in this movie now that they've killed a major star.
He kind of carved out he was kind of James Gunn's good luck charm, right? He was in Super. He was in Slither. That's right. Yeah. He's been in a bunch of James Gunn movies. Which
I think we can all agree Michael Rooker's great.
Yeah.
Oh, he's fantastic. But I would say I feel like he's never been better than he's been in Henry, because he's just so, I don't know, maybe it's a weird form of nostalgia on my part because it was such an impactful thing to see. But I feel like, he was just so, as good as he's been in everything else, he was a giant in this movie, I think.
It's really interesting because so Father Malone, you said, put myself in the shoes of somebody in 90, right? This is Michael Rooker's first film. If I saw this, I would think he's actually a serial killer. That's how convincing he looks. Not even taking how he acts and everything else out of it. The way he looks is so convincing because Michael Rooker is a character actor. He doesn't have to look like Chris Pratt. He can look like Michael Rooker in crazy blue makeup. But when he's just Michael Rooker with hair, there's something deeply unsettling. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is. It's his brow line in his eyes.
That's exactly what it is. He seems like, by the way, the sweetest guy ever.
Apparently is.
Got that look, and coupled with this character and the fact that he's such a good performer that he can inhabit it so well, it's like, oh man. I will say the movie would be less without him, and I think significantly less, although I do like the filmmaking on display here.
I feel like nobody in 86 would have taken this role. Like, no actors are going to go and do this role. It would have to be somebody who's like, this is my first role. I have to show who I am as an actor. That's the thing. In 86, nobody's making this kind of movie. Like, this movie for all of its issues at the time, this is a very contemporary. They're still trying to make movies as successful and as horrifying as this. They're still trying. That goddamn Dahmer TV show tried. As far as I'm concerned, anything that comes after this movie that's trying to do this is just trying to rip this off, because there's nothing better than this in this style of genre, which I guess is a serial killer movie.
Yeah, pretty much, and but it's a fictional version of Henry Lee Lucas, as you mentioned earlier, which, as you mentioned, is hilarious because most of Henry Lee Lucas's murders were all fabricated.
But which is fucking insane to me, because the character in this movie is an actual serial killer. Henry Lee Lucas killed his mom and somebody, like a younger sister or sibling or a younger girl. But then the confession killer thing goes on to talk about the fact that they were essentially getting him to admit to things so they could close cases and paying him with Sonic milkshakes and cheeseburgers or something. It was something like fucking absurd. But it's funny because now Henry Lee Lucas is not considered a serial killer. At one point, he was considered the preeminent serial killer, of all serial killers, at least in the United States. And now it's he killed 2 people.
Yeah,
but there's at least a nod. There's at least a nod to that. Him being an unreliable sort of narrator in the movie, where he's describing how he killed his mother, and he says, "I shot her." And he goes on to tell this story. And then, Becky basically says, "Well, I thought you said you stabbed her." And he says, "Oh yeah, I stabbed her." And there's something, obviously that's a nod, I think, to Henry Lee Lucas and the fact that you didn't know what was true and what wasn't. But it also gives you this kind of weird insight into this man's psyche. Like that's really probably, to me, that's the most effective part of this whole movie, is it really lets you into the life and psyche of a true psychopath in a way that I don't think was really, I mean, I guess you could point to a movie like Taxi Driver, but that's not about a serial killer. That's just about a damaged person who's driving the streets of New York. But this is there was something so real about his portrayal and about the way it was filmed that, to Father Malone's point earlier, it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great comparison, because that's another movie that had a real heightened sense about it. And it was effective, and it's still effective now, just like Henry.
I wonder if Chris Nolan saw that scene with Dark Knight. You want to know how I got these scars? It's that same setup. It's kind of the same thing, because he tells two different stories, two different ways. Or essentially the same story told two different ways.
Maybe
right?
Chris Nolan might not have, but I'll guarantee you David Goyer saw Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's that gave me that same, like you mentioned, HP, that same feeling of unreliability at the core of the character's being. Because if you're willing to lie about your, like, I guess the thing that made you who you are, at least in Henry's case, you're willing to lie about anything. Obviously, if you fucking murder people, no good reason. I get you're probably willing to lie about anything anyways.
I have a question. What actually constitutes a serial killer? I thought it was some sort of ritualized thing that they have to do, and not quite as random and spree-like as we see in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
That's a very good point.
That's fair.
He makes a point of saying, like, when he's kind of educating Otis about how to do what he does, he basically says to him, don't ever do the same thing twice. And when the time has come, go somewhere else, leave, and they will never tie you to anything that you do. So that's, to be honest, Father Malone, I've never thought of it in that way, but that's kind of a contradiction in terms, because he has no MO. He's
it's
always
like,
changing.
People called Eileen Wuornos a serial killer, and she was killing people for money. Like, I don't think there was some sort of ritualized thing that was, part of her psyche that she was exercising. Nor do I think it's with Henry. I think psychopath, yes, absolutely, but I don't know that it's as ritualized as a serial killer.
Yeah, I think you're right. But does that lessen the impact of the movie?
No, not at all.
I don't think so either. I think it makes it a little more horrifying, because that's not something that we think about much in the United States. Spree killers, because it's not like those. I mean, look, even serial killers now. My God, thankfully, they're the ones that haven't been caught, but the ones that, again, we're not hearing about people disappearing. I think the technology is where it is now, that we're probably safer than we were in the 70s and 80s and 90s, obviously, but spree killers are scary because it's not something that we really have a lot of experience with the United States, right?
Well, when I think of a spree killer,
but in fiction, like we have natural born killers, right?
Yeah,
but that's it.
No, Bonnie and Clyde. No, that's a it's a crime thing. Okay. Spree
no,
killers.
When I think
there are a bunch of spree killer movies. It's just that I cannot think of any.
Starkweather. I mean, they're all based off of Starkweather.
This is true. Badlands.
Who was
Badlands. Yeah, there you go.
Badlands. But like in real life, when I think of maybe this isn't correct, but when I think of a spree killer, I think of somebody like, remember the DC sniper from all those years ago? Like sure. There was really no rhyme or reason to why, to my knowledge, why they did what they did. They would just pull this car up crowded areas and shoot out the back of it. Like, that's killing without any real rationale or reasoning behind it, which I think is, like I said, Badlands would be the next best example.
But the Starkweather thing, echo the Starkweather thing, I just want to quote Kinky Friedman and the Texas Jew Boys. It was a rumor of a tumor nestled at the base of his brain. If you're looking for reasons, there are none.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing that I do appreciate about this movie is he gives a reason for killing, but the reason is no reason at all.
No, it's just because you have to do it at that moment. That person pushed you, or,
Because I want to.
Right. And he gives a grab bag of reasons for his, in his youth. His mother was a prostitute. She made him watch him have sex. She put him in a dress. It's like all of the things that people think make a serial killer,
Right. And yet none of them sound unbelievable when he says them, even though he's saying them contradictory to one another throughout the movie. You kind of just believe him every time he says, yeah. But I think
it just makes him scarier, I think.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's real and what's not. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like, he's still going to kill. His reasoning for doing it is kind of incidental. As Father Malone said, like he just kills because he has that urge in the moment to kill. It could be a fence trying to sell him a TV. It could be a couple running a diner. It could be a hitchhiker. You never know. That's scary.
There's another movie that The Hitcher. This could have just been The Hitcher.
That's a spree killer, baby.
Right. But Henry could have just been, feels kind of the same, doesn't it? Like zero modus operandi, just like, 'cause I can.
Yeah. But I'll take The Hitcher any day.
Well,
because the Hitcher is fun.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a mustache twirling kind of like, I'm going to play this game with you and we'll see how it goes. But Henry's just this bored, shell-shocked, empty shell of a man who's walking through life, and he will kill. The other thing that I have to say about this movie, and part of why I think it's effective, is I think maybe you see one squad car driving by, but at no point do you ever see a policeman. Do you ever hear a policeman? It's just, he lives in this world where he's killing consequence free. At any moment, you could pull over because you see a motorist in distress, and you can come out and say, "Hey, you guys okay?" And the guy just shoots you point blank, and then that's it. Game over. That is horrifying. That is really horrifying.
What reminds me a lot of American Psycho. This would be a good double bill. At least the book. Just read the whole book and watch Henry Portrait of Serial. It has that it has the same vibe, because in the book he just does whatever the fuck he wants, and he gets away with it because he assumes that he will never be caught because he is being confused for other people constantly. Henry doesn't have any of the confusion bit. It's just he's just a drifter, so nobody gives a shit anyway. The movie American Psycho, not so much, but I think the idea of American Psycho, the book, it has places in here. I can see similar things peeking through that the book hits on. The movie, not so much, but the book hits on. And I like that, though, HP, the idea of he just shows up and kills and leaves. Like, that's scary, right? Way scary. Just then, even The Hitcher, or what they've done to Michael Myers or any character. Because again, that's what Michael Myers was. He just walked around and killed people. Well, that's what made him scary.
It's funny. Okay, John McNaughton was like a documentarian, right? So he had made one successful documentary, and they were planning to make another successful documentary where they had $100,000 ready for him. And that fell through, and they said, okay, and he had been pushing to make a feature, and they said, okay, you can make a horror movie. We want a horror movie. We don't care what it is. And he was like, well, I don't have enough money for aliens or monsters and shit, so I'll have to do this, and that'll be my horror movie. And he just, I don't know, he knocked it out of the park, right? Like, as far as particularly, we keep mentioning these kind of horror movies, even The Hitcher, like these are all 80s kind of horror that we were surrounded with at the time. This was unlike anything going at the time. This movie is played so straight. Like, we call it a horror movie, but like, is it? It's just like a chilling, like, slice of life, unfortunately.
Like, that's a slice of his life.
That's right. Well, it's true. The interesting thing is, so they did pay him to make a horror movie, these producers. And that's really what held up the movie for years, is because what he delivered to them, they wanted a slasher movie. They didn't want some, basically a character study of the psychopath going through life. They wanted something more akin to Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. They didn't know what to do with it or how to market this movie. That's what held it up for 4 years or so. It wasn't sort of thought is that it was this ratings thing. And that was part of it, but that's not what held up the movie for so many years. The problem was he delivered what the producers weren't really expecting, which is not your traditional horror movie at all. But it's obviously so much. The tagline of the movie says it best. He's not Freddy. He's not Jason. He's real. I read that as a kid and I went, I have to see this movie. This sounds really, really cool. I can't wait to see it. And I wasn't prepared for it, even going in going, wow, this is going to be unrated because of tone. And it wasn't the most violent movie that I've ever seen, or the goriest movie, I should say. But it's, boy, what's there sticks with you. And maybe that's because, maybe what you were saying earlier, Chris, which is a modern, today's audience, would they be as affected by it as we were? Because this was all new to us. Like we hadn't seen a movie like this before. So do you think that your average, 22, 23-year-old or younger, if they see this movie, do you think they would be as impacted by it as we were?
I see. That's the thing. I don't know, because I would like to believe how just like Father Malone, you said, it's played straight. There's comedy, quote unquote. It's there. It's there, but
levity, let's call it.
Yeah. But it's not, again, it's played rather straight. So because it's played rather straight, it's very pared down. It's very cinema verite. Like you just mentioned, John McNaughton is a documentarian. So he knows what he's looking for to make it seem naturalistic, to try to replicate the documentary feel. If you get the right group of people together now, they would think that this is real. They might recognize Michael Rooker and be like, what the fuck is Yondu doing in this movie? But probably not, because they're not expecting him to look like 40 years younger version of him with hair. But I don't know. I think this movie would still play for people that have not seen it before. And I think it would still upset, because I don't know. There's something about it that's timeless. The performances definitely.
Chainsaw Massacre hasn't lost its appeal, No. It's like, that's even older, and
that's more stylistic than this is in a lot of ways. Like there's a guy with the fucking skin mask and he's dancing around, blah, 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 like still works. Like you mentioned, Father Malone, people still find it disturbing and off-putting. And I appreciate it for what it is. Like you said, I've seen it twice. I've seen the original one twice. Like, that's fine. Like, all right. I don't need to watch it again.
Like, are you,
did I miss anything? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I would watch this again. I did watch this again. I watched this twice for this. And I think, I might be able to comment a little bit on people who watch movies that have never seen this movie. They would like this movie for what it is. But I do think horror hounds and people of that ilk watching this movie, if they've never seen it in 2022, like the younger of the generations, would be bored by this movie. 100%. And I think it's a shame, but that's okay. This movie is like a Ty West in a lot of ways. There are going to be certain kinds of audiences it just is not going to play for. And that's not the movie's fault. That's frankly a fault of the audience and their expectations.
Apt. That's an apt comparison.
You don't hunt this movie. You don't wander into watching this movie. You have to hunt this fucking movie down. It's not, I'm watching Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer today. Like, what the fuck are you? Fuck you are. I will say it's on HBO Max, Peacock or something. It's readily available, if you guys can believe that. So
I actually find that hard to believe.
I do too.
I think it's on
because
Peacock.
It was such an underground, like hidden thing when we were kids, like HB mentioned earlier, this was, and even me, we kept hearing about this movie, and it was outrageous, and like you can't see it.
Yeah, somewhere.
It's on Peacock. Plain as fucking day. Yeah, they even have a little banner, a special banner for it. Yeah, man.
What's the disclaimer on it? Can you read it to us?
When Henry, a convicted serial killer, moves into Chicago with a fellow ex-con acquaintance, the duo embarks on a random killing spree. TVMA VSL. Also down here, more like this, Henry 2, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Fresh Hell, Dead Dudes in the House, Jack Frost, Bloodhook, Nightmare Weekend, Black Roses, and Queen, The Awakening.
Wow.
Huh. None of those movies it's a shame any of those movies got mentioned in the same breath as Henry.
Even the sequel.
They don't deserve it. The sequel was terrible. I did watch the sequel many, many years ago, and I couldn't tell you much about the plot. I think he is in a new town and he gets together with somebody who is like they're doing arson for money, and it was more like they felt like they just had a script kind of lying around about these bad characters. There was none of the character stuff in this. The mood setting kind of film, direction, the sound design, none of that. It was just your run of the mill, like made for cable. It was awful.
They should do one now with Michael Rooker. Somebody call John McNaughton and do it right now.
Ooh. We're talking, this would be like a Johnny Cash, Trent Reznor type thing where you're riffing.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. John McNaughton be like Logan, right? But
yeah.
And just call it Henry.
Right.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh man, why is that shit? Good Lord. You could really plumb the depths of depravity.
You could really go for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, is that just Terrifier though? Isn't that what we're at now with horror movies? That's what this era's Terrifier, where it's like pushing the envelope. It's like that movie's pushing the envelope.
I mean, it's still a fucking clown. You know what I mean? It's still Freddy Krueger. It's still Jason. Like, it's a slap.
I don't disagree.
That's a slasher movie. That doesn't, yes, those movies are popular the way the old slasher, 80s slasher movies were popular.
Fair.
And then there was Henry. So Henry 2 with Michael Rooker now could be what Henry was then.
Yeah. Man, that would be something, wouldn't it? Yikes.
Yeah. Where would the story go? Because he would be, we're talking almost 40 years later. Would it just, because they actually, I was reading this when I was doing research.
President of the United States.
Right.
Well, there was,
it would be better than what we did have. Holy shit.
At one point, they were going to make a sequel with Michael Rooker. It never really got off the ground, but from what I understand, it was almost going to be something a little like what Natural Born Killers became, where he is basically, he's in a new town, he gets arrested, and he becomes like basically an infamous celebrity in prison. And it's all about like the sort of.
I was hoping it was going to be Henry Goes Hawaiian.
It was like the cult of personality around,
right?
Serial killers and killers in general. It might have been actually in its time. It might have actually been really, really cool. But again,
I think they could still do that now because that fucking Dahmer show didn't approach that enough, and it should have. And that's something that none of these things, and again, this movie doesn't have to, but other things like it are verge on and or approach the whole serial killer fandom, I guess you might put it. Now that we're going to get whoever the fuck playing John Wayne Gacy in Monster, the John Wayne Gacy story. Or who is the next one going to be? That's the question, because this Henry 2 never happened, right? Or it could happen if we were making it. But who is that next serial killer that goddamn Dahmer show approached? Because like, what is even the point now? Now we're just going to cast another sexy guy?
Yeah. No. What will they do next? I wonder. And at the same time, I really don't give a shit.
Miles Teller as Bob Burdella.
No,
but
please.
but the budgets are too big. Everything is too shiny and beautiful looking. Again, we talked about this, but part of the beauty, if I could call it that, of this movie is that McNaughton had no budget. Most of those locations are practical, if not all of them. All of the people in it are basically non-actors except for Tom Towles and Michael Rooker, basically. He cast a lot of friends and family and associates. I actually didn't know this. There's a woman in this movie, in Henry, who is featured 3 different times. She plays 3 different murder victims, and I never knew that. The same one person. She's the woman at the beginning who is sort of like in the stream. You see her legs. She's one of the prostitutes that gets her neck broken. And I think she's the woman who gets stabbed through the face with the bottle. But I never knew that. Again, he had no budget. He had to shoot very lean. A lot of the scenes were kind of shot guerrilla style. So just like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the necessity of the budget constraints make it seem almost too real, it gives you like a sense of like, this is really happening, documentary style kind of feel. That's why you can't really, I don't know. You could have another Henry, but it's not going to come from Ryan Murphy. No question.
No, it's too polished. I mean, like
too
you mentioned,
polished.
with something like this, the way it's shot, if this was done today, people would try to pass it off as real. I mean, something like Blair Witch excelled not only because it's a good movie, the original, but it excelled because they played it straight outside of making it too. If somebody did this now, they would. I mean, I don't know if you guys can think of any kind of equivalents, but the Poughkeepsie tapes is a pretty close, similar take on what this movie's going for. I would say that it's probably the closest like internet age one. I'm sure we can go around the horn, but that would be mine in the hat of movies to watch with Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Poughkeepsie tapes, that goes in the hat. What about you, Father Malone? What goes in the hat for you?
I would pair it with a delicious Belgian offering called Man Bites Dog.
You took mine.
Sorry, no, I didn't take yours. I saw this movie in the theater, friend.
Well, but still, no. Go ahead. Sorry.
Man Bites Dog. It's basically a documentarian film crew following a serial killer, and without any moral qualms about filming him and his murders, and then eventually participating in the murders. Like at one point they run into another documentarian crew filming a different serial killer, and I think they have it out. Like it's crazy, but the tone of it is dead serious, just like Henry. So that's why I think it's a pretty good pairing.
What about you, HP?
For me, that's a good one. Man Bites Dog would have been my top choice. We already talked about Natural Born Killers. I think that would be a nice counterpoint. But if I'm looking for serial killer movie that's a little bit swimming in the same waters. There was a movie called The Last Horror Movie, which came out, I want to say it was probably the early 2000s. And have either of you seen it? So the beauty of it, and this is something you really couldn't, it wouldn't play
we
the
both
same
shook
now.
our heads no, listeners.
So
yeah,
that's
we
a
forgot that this was not a visual medium.
Tacit acceptance. It's basically, it wouldn't play as well now. We're out of the age of video cassettes, but like think back to when you would go to the Blockbuster or the local video store and actually get video cassettes. Father Malone and I are old enough to we can remember renting movies that way. Anyway, this movie was basically you would pop it in.
I had a Blockbuster membership. Just want to point this out. I personally had my own, and that Blockbuster was around until like what 2010.
Yeah,
I had Blockbuster for 2 years.
Yeah.
Basically, this movie, you'd pop it in and it would start as like, any old like slasher movie. And then it would kind of like cut to as if somebody had the video and started recording over it. And the person recording over it in this case was the titular. It was basically a serial killer. So the conceit is you rent this movie, you think it's a slasher movie, but this real serial killer has taken the tape and recorded over it and documented his crimes. Similar to the Poughkeepsie tapes, but it precedes it. And it was almost like it was kind of put you in the sort of a world of this, because you felt like for a minute, you felt, oh, this is not the movie. Someone actually recorded over this. Oh my God, it's a serial killer. It's not going to play now because, it's like Blair Witch. Everyone knows they weren't killed. It was all a thing. But I think for its time, it was a pretty effective.
What a scam.
It was an effective subversion of a video cassette kind of rental situation. And it was not a bad movie. I would say The Last Horror Movie. Check it out.
WNUF Halloween special. Have you guys seen that?
You made me watch that.
Yeah. Alex DeLard.
You did.
I didn't make
the Ludovico
you.
technique. My eyelids have been this thing.
It's not true. The only thing I've ever done that for was I had to keep my eyes open when you were showing me Bugs and Malone the first time because I couldn't believe it. But I never made you.
Yeah, you did. You held me down, put your phone in my
Watch this shit.
Yeah. Remember that? Jeez.
But it kind of has
Am I the only one who remembers these things? God. Remember Harris, the sniper at the school? We weren't there that day? Remember?
Jesus Christ.
That just got really dark.
What are some other movies that you guys that would you would put into this? Father Malone, you better mention Texas Chainsaw, but some of these other movies that you would put in the one watcher club. Like I've seen it once,
There aren't many, actually.
No, the same. It's a very short list. I think it's a good thing it's a short list, but also I don't seek those movies out. I know some people like to, movie roller coaster themselves, put themselves through the most torture and pain. Like, God.
Good for you.
Yeah, right. What do you want from us?
You are a hero, a horror movie hero.
Come on, give me some one watchers, because that's where this idea came from. HP was a one watcher. Give me another one watcher, Father Malone.
Man Bites Dog.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I
almost walked out. Actually,
yeah.
Oh wow.
For its time, it was outrageous and kind of shocking. I would actually go on a different direction. I would say Requiem for a Dream is one that I saw it. I was happy to have seen it. I will never watch it again. Don't want to watch it.
I think that's a lot of people's like one watchers, maybe even just like casual movie watchers. Requiem for a Dream is probably it's probably their kind of their big one. I don't know. I always hear people say Requiem, which I've never seen it. So,
we could spin it off. I would say like 12 Years a Slave was another one.
Heavy, serious dramas.
Yeah. I was happy to have seen it, but there's no reason. I mean, it's just, I think anything that depicts like prolonged, unnecessary suffering of another human being, I think both of those movies play into that, I think. But yeah, for sure, those I would never want to see again.
That Monica Bellucci film with Vincent Castle.
Oh, Irreversible, what was it called?
Irreversible. Not gonna watch it, but I know that's on a lot of people's lists as well.
No. Yeah, that's another one. Don't watch that one.
I don't know. I've come around on Henry. I think Henry has a lot to offer people today, because I think it would be interesting. Like you asked, Father Malone, would people today be down with this movie? I think people would enjoy this movie a lot more now, given the just the fucking dearth of true crime shit that we're just constantly bombarded. I don't think Netflix has gone a week this year without a new fucking documentary coming out on Friday. of some true crime. So they had another one last week, Killer Sally, about a woman who's buff and killed guys. Like, okay, fuck, sure. I'll watch it because I got nothing better to do. Or I won't watch it because I do have something better to do. But there are plenty of people that on a Friday night will sit down and watch that, and that's what Netflix is banking on. And this would still play today. That's the reason it's on Peacock. That's the reason it's on Peacock. It's because they're getting people watching this movie that are into true crime, and this shows up on all the true crime lists of like serial killer movies because it's kind of the granddaddy, at least contemporary grand.
It should be forced viewing for everyone watching these movies and TV series for entertainment. They ought to have to watch Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer beginning to end.
Did quick question?
They would like it though. I think they would like it. I think that's the problem.
Oh no, my plan backfired. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem here, man. They liked Dahmer for fuck's sake. They were into it.
Well, and I think it's just part of that. I think is because over the last 10 years, I think because like true crime like is such a hot thing, the podcasts, serial, all of these things. I just think like, stories and shows about murderers. It's a weird form of escapism for your average suburban, family is, hey, let's watch, like all those CSI shows. I think that's probably part of it too. Like we're just inundated with crime and murder and serial killing all the time. And it's almost like it's a cultural phenomenon. Where's the love? One thing I want to mention before we get off the subject, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Did you guys, either of you, come across in your sort of research for this the original poster art for Henry by a guy named Joe Coleman?
It's pretty great.
Did you guys happen to come across it?
It was actually great.
I know it because I remember I actually had the soundtrack to Henry in college years and years ago. I caught it was an import. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Have you seen it, Mike? Or Father Malone, excuse me.
That down.
Sorry.
It's post-production for a reason.
Yeah. I know I have, but don't have it in front of me. So I don't have any recollection of it.
Because it kind of spun me into a semi-obsession with the artist at the time. So the iconic image on most of the movie posters is the scene where Henry's kind of looking into the bathroom mirror and he's unscrutable. You don't really know what's, going on in his sort of mind. But the artwork by Joe Coleman takes that image, but in his own inimitable style. And when I say inimitable, I mean inimitable fucking style. This guy there's no one like him. It basically depicts like what's going on in his damaged psyche on the mirror. On one side, there's, one of the prostitutes with her eye shot out or something. There's one of the family members from the videotape scene who's being killed. His mother is depicted at the bottom with, I think she has like three boobs, and scrawled all over it are lines from the movie. And I got to say, like, it kind of draws you into the mentality and the vibe of this movie in such a weird, unsettling way. You should check it out if you haven't come across it, Father Malone. I was reminded that
right now it looks like a Hindi version of the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer poster.
It looks like if they commissioned John Wayne Gacy did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and that's like Joe Coleman, that was part of like, and I have a few of his books kind of packed away because I bought all this up at the time. He was kind of an outsider artist, and he would draw in the style. He would do like, he had a famous picture of Albert Fish, the guy, the infamous cannibal. He would do pictures of Jesus Christ with these weird, things happening and words scrawled all over the place. And
his works look like they're adorning House of Blues near you.
Well, I guess, at the time they were shocking. I think, again, this is a situation where maybe time has dulled its impact somewhat, but there was something about, not that this artwork was well known, because I believe it was actually banned because of just the tone of it at the time, but it's almost like McNaughton just couldn't help finding the perfect people to work on this project, the perfect actors / non-actors, the perfect, soundtrack people, and the perfect guy to do the artwork for this movie. Everything about this movie is unsettling, including this artwork. And like I said, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it because it's so incredible, I think.
We kind of haven't mentioned Tom Towles a whole lot, but he's undoubtedly like sicker than Michael Rooker is in this movie? Obviously, I mean, he's painted a lot sicker.
Well,
more,
he has to be because Henry does what he does because he has to. Otis is doing these things because he just feels like doing it, and
because he likes it.
And he's peer pressured by Henry.
Sure,
right?
yeah,
sure.
right.
Well,
sure,
and it's
Otis,
my arm.
Sure.
But it's not even implied. I mean, it's shown that let's go through some of the awful things he does outside of what he does with Henry. He tries to molest a high school kid who's selling him weed. He ends up we're pretty sure he's tried to molest his sister at least once, but we see him caught in the act of molesting his sister, which is when the sort of climax of the movie. To Father Malone's point, Henry does this because he's compelled to do it. He has to do it. But Otis truly takes, he's more depraved, and I think he takes more satisfaction out of doing these things than Henry ever does that we see.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it does have the lack of, I mean, again, they talk about it in Scream. Skeet Ulrich talks about it in Scream, I don't have a motive, and that's way scary. Yeah, it is. But then you have the guy, I mean, neither one of them really have a motive. I mean, Henry claims he does, but he doesn't. And Otis, or Otis, I guess, is in the movie. He doesn't either. I mean, he does, but he doesn't. And that's, even if the acting wasn't as good as it was, that's still scary on its own. But yeah, the Tom Towell's just something about his look. And then who would use him in movies a lot? Fucking Rob Zombie would, because of course he would.
Of course he would. He's great too. By the way, I love him. I saw not this first, like with Michael Rooker. It wasn't. I saw Tom Towles in the Night of the Living Dead remake that Tom Savini did in 1990.
Oh yeah.
You go be boss down there. I'll be boss up here. Yeah, and he's great in that. So,
but that was another case where I saw him in Henry first, and then I saw him later in Living Dead remake, and all I kept thinking was, "There's the creep from Henry. Get out of that basement. He's a creep. Did you see what he did?" So yeah.
Harris just screaming and screaming. No,
the threat isn't the zombies, you fool.
He could try to kill you. And you know what, though? I think for me, one of my favorite parts of this movie, and again, favorite, subjective or however you want to view it, the ending of this movie is so fucking horrifying. I love that the movie just goes all the way. He just takes suitcase, throws her out, and that's it. Goodbye.
Yep.
Like,
on to the next scenario.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no redemption at all. I mean, you feel like there's a moment where she admits, or she confesses her love to him, and I think he says something like, "Well, yeah, I guess I love you too." And then you see that bloodied suitcase on the side of the road, and you go, "No one's getting out of this alive. That's it. There's no hope." And that's, I think, ultimately, I think that's why people at the time were really. You couldn't, in a movie like this, you couldn't have the bad guy kind of get away with it, right? And I think that's part of what makes this, that's like the final nail in the whole coffin, is that, again, he kills everybody. He kills the woman that confessed that she loved him, and then that's it. He gets away with it. He's on to the next city, on to the next murder.
And is Henry really any better than Tony Soprano? You know what I mean? Like, you were talking about watching people who just kill people. I mean, Tony Soprano does it for 7, 8 seasons. I just watched The Sopranos last night. Everybody, that was the show that's the show with the anti-hero where, they didn't know if he could get away with killing somebody on the show. But in that episode, we did it. Once the cork was out, couldn't do anything about it. This movie would play now only because of things like The Sopranos being so popular, because people want to see Walter White. We
need the anti-heroes.
Yeah, Henry is not an anti-hero, but
at least you look, it's all justification on my part, but the Walter Whites and the Don Drapers and all the horrible white men I'm mentioning, they they all basically do the same thing, right? They're just killing for what they want.
Tony Soprano kills how many people in the show? Probably more than Henry kills in the movie.
No.
Tony Soprano kills a fair amount of people, doesn't he?
2 people.
2?
He kills Christopher. And he
I'm managed.
No, but they were all like the Walter Whites of the world are acting out of their own sense of what's right and justice.
Isn't
and
Henry?
It all revolves around them. But again, that's the horror of Henry, is that there's no right. He's not doing it because he thinks he's a righteous, person. He's just doing it because that's what he does. Don't stay out of his way.
I'm not sure that any of these other characters are really dictated by what they. I mean, that's the whole Tony Soprano arc is I can't change because I don't want to. Because I don't fucking want to. I mean, that's.
But I think
I don't know.
I think
if Tony is just not shown murdering an entire family and watching as somebody molest their corpse. That might be the difference.
No, but I think if you sat down Tony Soprano or Walter White and said to them, like, why do you do this? I think Tony would say something about how it's about his family and he's protecting the family and da-da-da. Walter White would give some sort of similar thing, like he's trying to create a life for his family because he's sick. But I have the sense that if you sat down Henry and you said, Henry, why do you do all these awful things? He would probably just kind of shrug and say, I don't know. Like, I'm not even sure he even knows why he does it. I just think he's like this, almost like an elemental force of chaos that kind of sweeps in and kills everything in his path if he wants to. He may not want to. He may want to go through life as an exterminator or whatever he's doing. But I don't think even he understands why he does what he does. He might think he does, but I don't think he really knows.
Find it funny the movie kind of called it shot on BTK accidentally. It's like, oh, an exterminator, huh? Because Henry is kind of funny. I know that's completely unintentional because BTK isn't caught for another like 16.
Right.
Yeah, it was just interesting. Like, I don't think anyone had ever made that connection either, that he was like in people's houses doing their ADT thing at the time. But it was just funny because like they show him as an exterminator. I was like, that's an interesting random connection, given that this is like, yes, it is Henry Lee Lucas, but there's also Ted Bundy and shit in here and other things. So, oof, boy, what a positive and uplifting film.
Whimsical.
True. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Can you believe it's the same act?
You kind of have to watch that performance after this performance just to cleanse yourself.
Yeah.
I bleach.
You really need a shower after watching this movie. It's just so
at least
grimy. Yeah. At least.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Father Malone, final thoughts on Henry, Portrait of a Serial.
John McNaughton is a fantastic filmmaker. All the actors are spectacular. It is beautifully shot. The score is great. If you watch the movie, I don't encourage you to, but if you must watch it with headphones so you can hear some of that sound design, because it's fucking great. It's a landmark film. It deserves accolades and praise, and I'll never watch it again. The end.
HP, break it down for me.
Second everything that Father Malone said. I think it's hard not to go into hyperbole, but I do really believe that there was kind of before Henry and after Henry, because this was really, like I said, the first movie to kind of try to let you in on the mind of a serial killer and how sort of drab and unremarkable everything is. Everything just works in the movie's favor. The low budget, the naturalistic acting, the incredible sound design, which I think isn't given much credit. Again, echoing Father Malone's point. And I think everything that, things like Dahmer and Poughkeepsie tapes and all these other movies, I think they do, whether they'll admit it or not, they owe a debt to Henry, I think. And it's a shame that maybe Henry isn't better known as a pioneer of that kind of storytelling, but I think it deserves its place in the pantheon.
Yeah, I agree. A long time ago for a little website called Kulturecast, it was one of the first reviews I read the website. Many moons, over 8. And I remember my review went something like this. Henry Portrait of a Serial. Fuck this movie. I'm not watching it. Because that was the visceral reaction it gave me. A visceral reaction. It gave both of y'all. I mean, this was a review that I was writing within an hour or two of watching it. So I was very put off by it. Understandably so. Both of y'all saying you'll never watch it again. And I understand why. I think I've come around a lot on it. And again, I think it's a weird mix of a lot of things. I don't think I would have come around on it if I didn't watch as much true crime stuff as I do now, consume true crime stuff the way that I do now, consume true crime stuff the way that society provides for us to consume true crime now. Because nobody was doing fictionalized Dahmer in early 2000s. I mean, yeah, we got a Jeremy Renner Dahmer movie, we got a Gacy Dahmer movie, but they're not doing these in-depth looks. Those were just, retellings of what they were up. This is like Dahmer. Dahmer is taking the best parts of this and glamming it up with Evan Peters, which is fine. Whatever. Cool. This is better. This is better because this is an hour and a half. This is better because, this isn't a real person, thank God. And the person it's based off of was a complete yokel asshole who actually didn't kill that many people. So it's kind of funny in a way that that's who this movie is based on, is a yokel redneck who barely killed anybody. Again, he killed people, but he didn't kill 500 or whatever the fuck number they landed on. 600? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
600 people. Right.
You know, I'd like to point out, for 2 years, I worked at an attraction that had a room filled with serial killer memorabilia, and I would have to do a speech and then let the visitors walk amongst the murderabilia objects. And I had to stand in a corner, and like right up against my left shoulder was a CAT scan of Henry Lee Lucas's brain. So I looked at Henry Lee Lucas's brain at least, I don't know, 18 times a week.
Wow. But, ultimately, it turns out he's not the serial killer that everybody thought he was. No, but
he was a very, very troubled man.
Sure.
His brain certainly did not look good.
Shocking. But then you come to something like this, where it's a fake serial killer based on a real person committing fake murders in a very real looking way. And you know what? The reason you guys don't want to watch it again is because of the successes that John McNaughton and Michael Rooker and Tom Towles and Tracy Arnold are able to convey on screen. And yeah, it's successful to the detriment of the film for people who want to rewatch it, but to the success of the people who watch it and are put off by it, but can't help but watch it again. And that audience, though, both of those audiences exist at the same time. So until the next time we do an episode, maybe the three of us, maybe just one of us, maybe just, well, not be me by myself. Who wants to listen to that? Where can people find you, Father Malone?
Check me out over at Weirding Way Media. A lot of my podcasts are over there, or go to fathermalone.com. That's a link tree to all the other crazy nonsense I do, like my YouTube channel. And, I do a podcast called Dark Destinations, which is a half-hour radio drama I write and produce. Check all those things out.
What about you, HP? Where can people find you if they were looking?
You can find me on myself and Father Malone on Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. And as I said, Wolf and Raisin, the Banachek podcast.
And as for me, Father Malone already mentioned it, and so did HP, weirdingwaymedia.com, 19 shows plus this one and counting. So that's where you can go for all the things that more or less we all work on. So weirdingwaymedia.com, patreon.com/Kulturecast for all the money that you would like to give, or just like, rate, and review on iTunes or wherever you get the show, but more than likely iTunes. FM, HP, TY, DUDES.
Yeah, all those letters.
No, thank you. This was fun. I mean, again, I'm glad. I will remember this podcast the next time I think about this movie, not Michael Rooker murdering and putting out cigarettes on women's breasts. So
here.
There you go.
And we'll catch you on the next episode.